Welcome back, everybody. Jiu Jitsu Motivation Podcast. I'm Greg Melita, black belt, owner of Hampton's Jiu Jitsu.
And I am Brian DeLuca, black belt and author of Jiu Jitsu for Small People and other weird shit I think about.
Man, Brian, that intro makes me just crack up every fucking time.
I know. It makes everyone smile. I don't know. The title of that book makes everyone smile.
Yeah, I know that was purely scripted in there, and it works, my friend. Good job on that.
It does.
So, guys, today we got Julio Arce with us, all right? UFC fighter, and really happy to have him on. We're going to learn some things today and chat it up. I appreciate you coming on local New York on the podcast here.
Yeah. Freaking thank you guys for having me here. I'm actually excited to do this. I haven't done a podcast in a while.
Awesome, man. So you got your you grow up in Queens, like you live out there, grew up there. Bring us through that.
So I was originally born in Florida.
Okay.
I always like joke with my parents. Like they got me over the border at the last second, just in time. So, yeah, but was born in Florida, became a U.S. citizen, then went to live in Colombia for a bit, and then came back and only lived a couple of years in Colombia, and then pretty much lived my entire life in New York after that. Mm-hmm. And it's always interesting because you hear it's like my parents, did everything they could to make sure that I became a U.S. citizen.
Yeah.
And then they're like, all right, we want you to, they brought me back to learn about kind of, my culture. To be like, oh, you're not just American. It's like, you're from Colombia too. Then they brought me to New York and they've just been in New York ever since. That's it.
That's awesome, man. And you originally started boxing, right? You were in the Golden Gloves originally.
So,
correct?
So I started, I've been in Tiger Schulman's for now 21 years, going on 21 years. So I started with them. I had no experience whatsoever when I first started. I was just like a fat, chubby kid, just really like looking for my thing. So I tried other sports. I tried soccer, tried basketball, but it's like, it's nothing wrong with team sports. It's just like, it just wasn't something that will hold me accountable for myself. Like it wasn't like my journey as it is in like martial arts. I mean, like you guys are black belts, so you guys know it's like, mm-hmm. It's like, if you don't improve, that's on you. That's like on how hard you're working. So I went there for my first class. My oldest sister, Kathy, brought me in, and like, I fell in love with just training. Like they're like, all right, did my first beginner class, and I started off as a kid. Mm-hmm. So my first beginner class, my first like jiu-jitsu class, and like it was awesome. Honestly, in jiu-jitsu, I had no idea. I used to watch the WWE.
Right.
I'm gonna hit some kid with the walls of Jericho and just
similar.
Yeah. Some of those things are actually real techniques. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Camel clutch.
Hey, and when you have no idea what to do in the beginning, you're just like, yo, let me fucking try this.
Yeah.
Somebody with like a rock bottom and just not hurt him, just for the fun of it, see if it works. But yeah, then after that is just, I just put in, been training now it's been 20 years just being with them and just been training nonstop. Like once I fell in love with it, it was just like, it was my addiction. I was there every single day and I was just like nonstop. I was focused literally on like just trying to lose weight. So I was just like, a little fat kid, and you go to school, you deal with these ruthless kids that just like,
right.
They just don't hold back, and slim down. And then from there, like, I just started competing. I was like, yo, I love this shit. I want to compete. I did a bunch of Naga tournaments, did, a bunch of like, kickboxing tournaments. Then when I finally turned 18, they were like, all right, you can finally start fighting. I'm like, oh, sweet. Yeah.
So what's it like training there, right? Because, I mean, Tiger Schulman's was originally karate, right? Is the original basis.
Yeah, I had a question about that, too. Definitely.
Yeah,
Tiger Schulman, like,
MMA. And I know you're an instructor there. Yeah, and you're an instructor there, right?
Yeah. So we started off as Tiger Schulman's karate. Mm-hmm. And what happened is, look, it's like any, like you see the sport, how much it evolves. You see how much it's changed, and like the new generation of fighters, it's like everyone's good at everything now.
Yeah.
So while I was going through that point where like the UFC still was not like a major sport as it is now, like you see the world of martial arts starts changing, and there's the people that they're like, now we keep it the same way and that's the way it is, or there's people that evolved. And if you ever hear the saying, it's like, if it's always been this way, that's always how we do it. It's kind of like that's as far as you go. So they decided to like, all right, take in Jiu Jitsu, learn the aspects of wrestling, and Tiger Schulman's advanced in it. He's like, yo, I want to learn this. I want to evolve the game. I don't just want to teach karate. I want to be a mixed martial arts. So once he dived into that, then you see like we start transitioning from Tiger Schulman's to Tiger Schulman's, mixed martial arts and so on. So that's why the moment I started training, like I started in a beginner class, learning just the basic foundation, and then I jumped into jiu-jitsu, and like it was just all just the basics. And we just did that over and over and over and over again. And then, my coaches were like, look, we're giving you like just one piece of the puzzle, but there's so many other moves out there that we don't even know. So it's like, go online, look them up, learn. It's like, just look, go learn. Just don't stop learning from like any source. It's like, just go out and absorb as much knowledge. Even when you go compete, go absorb as much knowledge as you can, because then what's going to happen is you're going to have like your own little software just filled with all the like the tools that work for you and all the things that you want to do. And then you bring that out, eventually, like when I started growing up, when I became an instructor, it's like I bring that out to my students, and now you see them pulling off these moves and you're like, that's awesome. But it was the fact that they just never stopped evolving, and we continue to just do that. So it's pretty amazing, because that's what everyone thought. It's like, oh, they're just a karate school. It's like,
right. Yeah. How does the class structure work? Is it like, do they teach all things in one, or is it like you have separate jiu-jitsu classes, separate like striking classes?
Yeah. So we have the basic striking classes, then a separate just jiu-jitsu class. And then, so it's like you start like in a beginner class, basic foundation, jiu-jitsu class. You start off, and the jiu-jitsu class is the one that you split, because you'll have like beginners on one side and then more advanced on the other side. So it's like they'll teach the beginners the basics that they need to know, and then do just like constant repetition. You see that they start to understand it. Then later on, they start moving to the advanced side, or it's kind of like an intermediate side, I would say. Then they move up, and then we have like our intermediate kickboxing, which is that's where you start learning sparring. You start learning you don't even spar. You just do a lot of drilling to get you comfortable to that point. And then we have like just our advanced class, which is just advanced kickboxing or just advanced jiu-jitsu. So, for like in our school, like in my school, I have to split up the jiu-jitsu class because our schedule allows only us to do that. So I'll teach like a beginner, and then I'll go to the advanced side. I'll teach them what they have to do, and that's what they work. But then we have like just advanced kickboxing, intermediate kickboxing, and beginner kickboxing. So everyone's, so we're putting everyone they have to be. And, they start progressing. They see that it's not, okay, I'm not just going to punch a bag forever. There's more to this, right? And we start showing them like, look, this is the path to it. So then you guys don't think, okay, I'm just going to punch a bag and just learn how to, basic techniques. No, you have to learn eventually, if somebody tries to hit you back, how to defend that. Okay. If you're on the ground, okay, what to do? Like someone's on ground, they're grabbing you two hands, what to do from there. Like just the basic self-defense. Because that's what we do. It's like we teach self-defense for like the common person. So, and then there's like the 1% that wants to take it a little further. So then we have the people that do competitions and all that. So, but it's pretty much like a lot of people that have no experience that come in, and then they kind of empower, we empower them. So then they know how to protect themselves, especially how fucking crazy everything is now. It's like, you need to know how to protect yourself.
Yeah, it's true.
Well, that's like, that blows me away, because when I was first competing, my first jiu-jitsu competition was like 2001, right? And it was at a Naga, and I came from a karate background, so I got my black belt in karate before I started jiu-jitsu in like 99, right? Like 2000. And my sensei said, learn jujitsu because you'll be the only guy that can stay on your feet and use your karate. And that blew me away. But I came from, it was a style called Ishinryu karate, and my instructor happened to be, his instructor was one of the guys that brought it from Okinawa, from the Marines, and he was the grandmaster, lived across the street from my grandfather, and they were best friends. So I learned karate like I never paid, a penny, and it was one of those things. But then going to the first jiu-jitsu tournament, and I see Tiger Showman is my first round, and I'm fighting a guy in a jiu-jitsu tournament, and I'm like, I'm fighting a Tiger Showman guy? I used to fight these guys at the point karate tournaments. So it kind of blew me away that Tiger Showman was getting in the mix of jiu-jitsu, and I would kind of like, really? But then now, after the years go by, and like, wow, Tiger Showman had the vision like years ago to be well-rounded, and that is way more than all these other karate styles we're doing. But yet, kept the name. So I assumed, at first I actually assumed it was just Tiger Showman karate guys that wanted to jump in and try jiu-jitsu. I didn't even realize that was their vision, and that they had this whole idea of being in the MMA game. So I just think I had to throw that story out there, because that's really cool. I got a lot of respect for that,
It's wild, because like even like before I started, like they used to have like a bunch of older fighters who they would do like things called they used to have these competitions called Style Wars. I think they were like in Long Island, all around New York City, and it's pretty much like bare knuckle, MMA bare knuckle, and like you're not allowed to like punch, but you palm heel strike them if they're on the ground, and like standing there just freaking palm heel strike each other. But it's like the fact that they just dove into that. They were like, look, why are we going to stay just karate? It's like, why not evolve? Why not change? Why not be able to teach, kickboxing, okay, jiu-jitsu, and with the traditional values of karate. So, like when we teach kids, they still learn everything's like in a discipline structure. With adults, like you're not gonna freaking drop a hammer on them and be like that, but just so they learn a baseline of discipline that, for them, you got people who are just trying to get in shape and they can't even get themselves out of bed to show up to a class on time. So it's like, you got to teach them that. And then they trying to figure out, it's like, oh, well, why is training so important? And I'm like, look, if you want to, and each person has individual goals, but if you have somebody that has no idea of how to work out, has no idea of the concept of being healthy, it's like, you got to just build that baseline for them so they start to get an understanding of it. So it's like, to them, to adults, we kind of like weave in the discipline aspect of it. So they kind of learn it. They see it themselves. Through kids, it's a little more structured, but it's still like, you're still teaching them mixed martial arts, just with like the traditional discipline of like karate, like standing at attention, okay, responding, following direction, being able to keep that focus the whole time, right? So it's great to see that they evolved. A lot of times, like where my school is, like a while back, we used to get like a lot of, we had like all the Taekwondo schools around, and they walk around, they try to like choke on like some of my students, and it was pretty funny, because it's like, if you have to kind of insult what we're doing, it just kind of shows that you guys are stuck in a way.
Yeah,
it shows how confident you are. That you feel like you have to like kind of, pick up my students. Yet my students, if my students take you down, they could just strangle you.
Right.
Or they have so many more options. But it was pretty funny, because we used to get this back when I was like 16. We'd have people walk in and they'd just be like, oh yeah, I just want to see if you guys are legit. They come in like a cocky attitude. So it'd be like, all right, here, sign the waiver. Come on in, we'll take you a pair of gloves. She's got kicked the shit out of them. It's always fun, because it's like, you humble them. I'm like, yo, you don't have to be a dick. Like there's a way to do things.
Yep, exactly.
Like, look, if I was to walk into your school, I'm gonna be like, we'll see if you guys are legit. We'll see you guys. No, you show respect. You go in there and you learn. That's it. It's like there's no need to be arrogant. There's no need to be like that. But of course, these are some schools that just chose to not evolve. They chose to stay the same, and that's fine. But like, don't bring down like our style, like or our chant or our thing that we wanted to move and learn from this and try to like bring us down. And it's like that's not what martial artists do. We all got to bring each other up. I don't care what school you're from. It's like, yo, the fact that you're learning martial arts, that shows that you're on a certain path and you understand. It's like we bring each other up. That's it. So
yeah. You gotta respect someone else's journey, even if it's a different one than you're on. You know, that's all. You know. So I have a question. You mentioned you were like a chubby kid, right? And you went in to lose weight, and the kids were picking on you. Now I'm a little guy, right? So I got picked on too because I was small. Were you the type of kid that got picked on or fought back? Because I was the type of kid that okay.
There was both. So I was the type of kid that sometimes you get picked on. So I was a kid that, let's say if you go to a swimming pool, I'll keep my shirt on. I'll go in the water with my shirt on because I was that subconscious of like how I looked. Now, there's some kids that just push your buttons and you just fucking snap and you just swing at them. And that would happen sometimes too. But, like it's like you're told, like, sometimes parents be like, look, don't start fights, finish them. And like, if my dad would be like, if you have no other option, just do what you got to do. So, some kids would literally just pick on you to the point where you just like gotta take a deep breath. You try not to snap, and then you just like, boom, just smack them across the face.
Yeah. Oh, you gotta defend yourself, man.
Yeah.
It's true.
Did I win every single fight that I got into? Not at all. But I'm like, I'm going. Look, I don't give a shit if I don't win. Like, I'm going down. I'm gonna let you know that I'm gonna freaking leave you with a busted lip. Like, I'm going down swinging, and this is me having no idea what to do. So. It sucks because like you see, kids are just freaking ruthless lately.
Oh yeah.
And they're more emotional than before now. Like before we'd be like, all right, you look at it, you're like, whatever, man. And then like now, like kid gets insulted, it's just like
he just have so much you can take.
Yeah, they have no idea what to do.
Yeah, so it's Tiger Showman. I had a question popped in my head. I mean, it's a household name, like so. So I guess how does that work with like affiliations all over the country with Tiger Showman? Are they all MMA like doing everything oriented, or are there some Tiger Showmans that are just karate? Like how does that work?
So we're all under the same banner. We're Tiger Showman's martial arts, and everyone teaches the same curriculum. So what happens is we're in the whole tri-state area, and every school is required to go train at our main headquarters. That's where all like the fighters train in Elmwood Park, New Jersey. And we all meet there every, like twice a week to go over curriculum, make sure that what everyone's teaching, but like what we're teaching, everyone's on the same page. So we're all like, so if you come to my school, there's a certain format we're following for the week. You go to all the other schools, they're following the same format for the week. So then everyone's on the same page because we don't want it to be like a free for all where it's like, okay, so and so is only doing this, so and so is only doing that. Everyone's under the same thing, following the same curriculum. So then it's like, you have a structure, and then like your classes can grow. So it's like you're not gonna see like, we just the fact that we have all different age groups. We start like children, then kids, 8 to 11 or 12, depending how big, 12, at 12 they are.
Right.
Then just adults. And so it's like everybody's separated. Everyone's kept in, their own kind of category. We know who the beginners are. We know who the advanced are. Everyone's placed in the correct classes. So little things like that, just go a long way. And then when it comes to the format, everyone's teaching the certain format throughout the week. So one, it's not something different every single day. It's like, all right, what are we going to learn today? What are we going to do today? Everyone's learning the same thing. So at least they get repetition in it. Even if somebody that trains twice a week, they're at least seeing it twice. And then next week, they're seeing it, same thing twice. So at least they have an understanding. So we have a whole thing of curriculum. I think it's like 30 curriculums total. And just we keep going through them nonstop. If we ever have to change anything, then everyone gathers at our headquarters and we go over that change together so everyone's on the same page. So everything we do is like we do it as a team. So although, we're all in different locations, we all come together to be like, okay, this is what we're going to be doing. This is what we're going to be now trying to bring out in jiu-jitsu. Like we're starting like a law enforcement program. So, we have, people have to get certified for it. So we all train this certain format about law enforcement and all that. So it's like, okay, we're on the same page. Everyone knows all the little details that have to go into this. So then it works. So there's not one person, well, I'm going to do this. Well, I'm going to do that. Tomorrow we're going to do this. Everything is structured.
Oh. So how does it work with, like, okay, so you got karate and you have jiu-jitsu and you have MMA going on. How does it, like in jiu-jitsu you have instructors, professors, in karate you have senseis, right? What do you guys call the actual instructors there? Are they instructors, coaches? Senseis?
For me, like, everyone calls me sensei because like that's what the kids call me, and like, I think that's my title overall. But some people, you get like some adults, they'll be like, yo, coach. I'll be like, whatever. That's like I'm not gonna be like, you gotta call me sensei. No. Right.
I was just curious. That was just a curiosity question for me.
No, like everyone in the school, what's funny is like everyone in the school calls me sensei, and then even when I'm outside of the school, like if they run into me like at a store, they're like, hey, sensei. I'm like, that's not my name, but I'm not gonna try to fix anything. I'm like, whatever. That's how everyone knows me. I think some people think that's my name in general. Like,
especially the little kids. I'm sure they do. The younger kids probably think that is your name. Now, for your fight camps, right? When you fight, and I've seen like the Schulmans are actually, in your corner, right? They're coaching. What does your fight camp look like? Is it pretty much training mainly with Tiger Schulman, or do you bring in other people? How does your fight camp work?
Did you go to the headquarters for that? Like,
right.
So what happens is at our main headquarters, that's where all the fighters train. So we all got there. We are doing some days. We're always doing either jiu-jitsu and kickboxing or boxing, or then wrestling, kickboxing or boxing, depending what the schedule is. And then we always hit with some conditioning or some bag work after. The coaches always try to they build connections with people, and they'll be like, guys, on this Thursday we're all going to travel to the let's say we used to train in Belmore Kickboxing.
Yeah, Belmore Kickboxing, yeah.
And be like, all right, you guys are going to go over there. We're going to get some round with these guys, get some outside sparring. It's like, okay, next week we're going to go to a boxing gym. So we'll go to the Bronx to get some work with some of these guys, or, like to Patterson to get some work over there. And they connect because, it's great to train with, your team and all that. Mm-hmm. But sometimes that outside work is great because,
right.
Like for us, we used to go when we first started going to these boxing gyms. They're trying to kick the shit out of us. Like they're trying to hurt us. Mm-hmm. So it's like, it simulates a freaking it pretty much is a fight. Yeah. You're going there to get work, but if you're not focused, like they don't care if they drop you. They'll be like, oh yeah, nice to meet you, and then boom, they're freaking cracking you, and next thing you're on the floor. But it's like, it's great work because it gets you like amped up. It's like, all right, it's like this guy's gonna try to freaking hurt me, so I'm gonna try to fucking hurt him.
Right. Yeah.
And then afterwards, it's like you earn their respect. Because that happened to us a couple times. Like we first started going to a boxing gym. We went with this kid. His name is Kendall Holt, WBO world champion. Dude was ridiculous. And there was some other kids, and they have they'll be like 8-0 pro with like 300 amateur boxing fights. You're just like, when you find out after. So the first time I went there, I went with this kid. His name was Mongu. He was 10-0 pro, 350 amateur fights. But you didn't know that. You're like, right. 8-0 pro. He's like, all right, well, let's go. That dude hit so fucking hard, and he hit me with a body shot. And I was still an amateur at the time. I'm like, yeah, I'm fucking going there. Dude caught me with a body shot. I was like, you're like, but I'm like, damn, this is a pro level.
Yeah.
So, but the thing is, I was like, all right, that for a day, I'm like, I got my ass kicked. I'm like, fuck, I was so pissed off. I told my coach, when are we going back? It's like, we're going back next week. We're going back Monday. And we just kept coming back. So then what happens is we're diving into these guys who are boxers, and they're up here at this level. And we're mixed martial arts, so we're making everything work. So then next thing you know, we're kind of climbing until we're at the same level as them. And they're like, God damn it. It's like, they're looking at us like, yo, how are these MMA guys, catching up to us? Because it's true. It's funny. We went to a boxing gym and they go, yeah, we want to get some work with you guys. You MMA guys have like a weird style. I'm like, well, my boxing coach Ray goes like, what are you talking about? We throw a jab across, a hook like you guys. Like, what's the weird style? But whatever. It's like they have a hard time understanding, like the whole MMA and like boxing. But it's like they don't like it. Like deep down inside, they hate it. But
pretty funny.
When we go in there, like they try to hurt us and they see us and we're like, yo, we're hanging with you guys. And like, we're going to try and beat you and we'll keep coming back. So even if you think you got us the first time, we're going to come back. Next time, we're going to do even better. We'll kick the shit out of you and so on until we beat you. Why? Because that shows like how we're evolving, how we're getting better, like, for us as fighters. And that outside work is great. Remember a while back, we had I'm talking about way back when I was still in Ring of Combat. We had Gregor come into Gregor came to train with us at our headquarters. He had Andre Harrison, and we went with this guy. And I'm like, I knew nothing about Gregor. Like, I'm like, yo, kid's a fucking stud wrestler. His motherfucker just double legging the shit out of me. I'm like, Jesus Christ, this dude is fucking ridiculous at wrestling. And then he tells me after, it's like I was was it 4-time champion that he was? And like, God knows how many wrestling, like, holy shit. Mm-hmm. But it's great because you're like, damn, it's like this is the high level of wrestling. It's like, right. And you're like, damn, it makes you like go back and work even more. So next time you're like, all right, let's see where I stand now. So it was great stuff. And I think at that point he was also working on his striking. So when we were standing up, I had the better of him. When he shot in, he freaking took me down. I'm like, this fucking dude is, heavy as fuck. And he's only like 155. I'm like, Jesus, man. But that's the kind of wrestling pressure that he had. So it was great. So, our coaches take us to places and they're like, or they call them work to come in. And so we get better. Because look, when you train with your teammates, you can only go so hard because you also like you guys don't want to hurt you. You don't want to concuss your teammate or anything, So, but you're working. But then you get the outside work, and these guys are fucking going hard. You're like, all right, we can step it up because they probably feel the same way we do. It's like, all right, we don't know you, and it's like either I hurt you or you hurt me type of shit.
Yeah, and I think when you train with your teammates a lot and you don't train with other people, what happens is you get so used to their game. Right. You get so used to their game and it just becomes sort of like this repetitive fight over and over again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like how do you, judge your own progress? Like I'm actually writing an article about this now. It's like you fight the same guys for years. Everybody knows each other's moves. Like, how can you really tell if you're getting better or not? I mean, I think that's a huge part of it. And going outside, like you're saying, in that cross training way. I mean, that's going to not only let you know where you stand, but it's going to raise your level, Exactly.
So we have our teammate, Mancher Kara, Munch.
Yeah, I know Munch, yeah.
Yeah, he's actually fighting tonight in Florida, his second pro MMA fight. His first one was bare knuckles, which was wild. It was hysterical. But I'm like, but he's doing his second pro fight today. When he came into our gym. He's been training with us for a long time. And, like Munch's freaking jiu-jitsu is ridiculous. And like a couple of times he brought the Meow brothers to come and train with us, and, he's really close with Dylan Danis. Dylan Danis came in to train with us. And, like I just throw myself in there. I'm like, I'm going to freaking go with you guys. And I don't care how many times I get tapped out. I'm gonna freaking go until eventually I'm trying to get the better of you, or I can neutralize what you're doing and then, try to advance from there. So it's like, it's great stuff. And like, even with rolling with Munch's jiu-jitsu is ridiculous. So if I and he's getting used to like MMA jiu-jitsu from jiu-jitsu. So then when we're on the ground, I'm throwing strikes at him. He's trying to build comfort in that. He's trying to figure that out. But at the same time, I'm trying to figure out, like his like high level jiu-jitsu aspect. So it's like we're constantly learning from each other, which is great. When he brought the Meow Brothers, I mean, I was like, how the hell is this freaking little guy just so goddamn strong? How the fuck is he on my back already? Or how is he already attacking my leg the way he is? But it's great because then when they were trying hot kickboxing, and you can see how uncomfortable they were, like, you know, like where do I put my hands and stuff like that. So I worked with, you know, I did a couple of rounds with them, just kind of work. And they're like, you know, thanks for working with me and not just fucking blasting me. And I'm like, hey, dude, it's like when I'm going with you, I'm feeling like a toddler getting tossed around. But you know what? That's how we learn. That's like I said, it goes back to like, just, you know, we bring each other up. Doesn't matter what level you are. It's like, even if I'm a better striker and you're a better grappler, like I'm gonna learn from you and you're gonna learn from me, and like that's how it is. So it's great stuff.
Yeah, as much as, you know, you guys are in a sport that's, you know, involves fighting, it really comes down to you got to be humble, and the more you do it, it makes you more humble to the point where you're going to train with other people and not just, you know, stay in a little shell and, you know, have like an ego trip kind of thing. Like, because you see that now, like when, you know, jiu-jitsu first came on the scene and the Gracies and the UFC, and then you realize though that it still comes down to cross training, because jiu-jitsu by itself, it did not last. It lasted a few UFCs until people started to wise up and train and cross train, you know. So that's the thing, is how you can put it all together. Like that seems to be the answer, you know. Even though jiu-jitsu woke everybody up, you can't just have jiu-jitsu to be successful, you know.
It's like was it Husamar Fajares, when, you know, he was like snapping everyone's knee in the UFC and nobody can stop him, and then was it Alan Belcher that was like, yeah, I'm gonna dive into that, let's go. And then he just started freaking punching the shit out of him as he has his leg, just like the confidence in that. You're just like, yeah, you know, like somebody's gonna figure it out. So you have to, you know, you gotta have your backup plan. So it's things like it's things like that, you know, like that's just like one example. And now you look at like the generation of fighters, like it's crazy because these kids, you know, like these guys they're good at everything. Right. And you see how much the sport has evolved now, which is cool, and it continues to grow. Like all of a sudden, like was it when Ryan Hall just started leg locking the shit out of everybody? We were like, what the fuck is like? Every time I try to fight this guy, he just drops to his back and starts attacking my leg.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So you always got you have to have one of the most awkward fights ever until, like, you know, forgot his name. He's fighting soon. Ilias Sapora, the guy that I think he just knocked out Ryan Hall before his last fight. Like, he just started hitting away, and like, you know, Ryan Hall put himself in danger, but you know, this guy was like, yo, go for my leg. I'm gonna get your number on this one. Right. So now, next time Ryan Hall fought, he was a lot smarter about it. He still had his same dangerous leg attacks, but he was more calculated, because you see that there's going to be that one person that's just they're going to figure you out. And now then you have to start you can't be like, yeah, my leg lock's always going to work. My leg lock's always going to work. You have to be able to have another backup plan or fix something else in your arsenal, so then nobody can expose it. Right? And then you can still be dangerous.
Yeah. And once someone figures it out, everyone knows it. That's it.
Yeah, you gotta adjust, but you're only gonna adjust if you're in the game of being open-minded and following that path. And with the leg locks too, like there's a certain way, because, you know, when you go for a leg lock on the bottom of somebody, saying like, you know, single leg X or something, and you're in MMA, you're gonna get pounded. But you know, when like Ryan Hall adjusted, like in the beginning, he's just, you know, banging leg locks out there and just, you know, wiping everybody out because nobody had an answer. Then people started getting an answer, and now with the leg locks, there's a lot of leg locks that you can do that you're not at risk of getting, you know, hit. So that's the adjustment. You know, in the beginning, you can just try to leg lock, but you don't realize when you can get hit and when you can't. You know, when you set up your inside Senkaku and your leg lace position and things like that, then you're good. You're not going to get hit in MMA. So that's amazing to see the leg lock game, you know, in jiu-jitsu, but then adapting for MMA, because how long did you hear that leg locks didn't work in MMA? You know?
Yeah, you hear a bunch of times. Then you see people like just like when Ryan Hall got BJ Penn in that, like, you're like, Jesus Christ. It's like,
yeah.
And now people are. It's like you're playing like when people play hopscotch. You see like people jumping around because they don't want their legs attacked. But then but like you said, people that did leg locks, they adjusted to MMA leg locks, so now they're safe from getting hit. Right. And then the people who are defending those leg locks are like, all right, I gotta find a way now to neutralize pretty much the MMA leg locks. Because now, like when they get me, I won't be able to hit them, but I'm also in just a lot of danger. So
it's to the point now where leg locks, you can't, like, for how many years did people's defense to leg locks was just stand up and rip your leg out? Like, it's to the point now where you can't do that. You have to legit learn this leg lock systems to learn how to defend it. You can't just try to rip your leg out to defend. And that's huge. That blew me away.
Rip your own leg off. You just hold your leg, you rip it out on your own. It's like people tear their ACLs on their own. You're like, I didn't even have anything.
I mean, Ryan Hall, you mentioned Ryan Hall beat BJ Penn. I mean, to me, like, I came from an old school traditional jiu-jitsu background. And for me, coming through the ranks, it was always, BJ Penn was always the jiu-jitsu that I looked up to. Like, whether it's sport jiu-jitsu or MMA, to me, that was like the jiu-jitsu that I wanted to have was BJ Penn's jiu-jitsu, And then to see BJ Penn, it's even past him because he didn't evolve. He admits he didn't want to, learn any berimbolo or leg lock thing. And he just wanted to go out there and do his thing. And, for most people in the world, he will, in his, way of doing jiu-jitsu. But now here's this other new tech, if you will, the new meta. That he wasn't ready for it. There's no getting around it. So it's
you got to constantly evolve. It's never like this is the way it is and that's the only way we're going to stick to. It's like, no, even in business. I mean, they tell us like, we've always done this way. That's the end of your business right there.
That's like old school business guys, like not really taking a look at crypto or brushing it off like it's nothing. You know what I mean? It's the same concept.
Well, look at that whole NFT. I'll tell you what, everyone's been talking about these NFT things, and I'm just like, I'm still trying to understand that shit. Like, everything's changing. You're just like, everything is money right now.
Yeah.
Like somebody put like a whole meme. It's like, it's like this kid sitting at a table with his girlfriend. And like the waiter brings the check, and the kid just hands him a picture of like a house with a little flower on it. My NFTs will cover this. And you're just like, yeah, man. It's even in with the whole. I was talking with a friend of mine, like the whole metaverse thing. People are buying property.
Yeah,
in the metaverse, like. I want to live next to Kanye West in the metaverse, so I'm going to buy this much land to live next to him.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I'm just like, what?
Yeah. I think that's the same reaction when like traditional karate guys saw like Royce Gracie in the UFC or got armbarred, and it's like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
Like, and I say it all the time, but I relate that like the leg lock game now, like the whole Danaher thing and all the leg entries and that whole system. It's kind of like UFC in '93. Like if you don't know jiu-jitsu, it's kind of like that now. If you don't know this leg locks, even just the basic, attacks and defense in this new system. It's like you're way behind if you're not even just adding a little bit of it in your game,
Yeah.
It's kind of like my teammate Nick Pace. He made it to he was like one of the first bantamweights in the UFC when they made that transition of bring the small guys. And then, once he was done in the UFC, he did combat jiu-jitsu. It's like that's a whole different change there. Next thing you know, it's like you got somebody they're like, I'm just gonna roll, and then next thing you know, boom, you're getting like palm strike in the face.
Yeah.
They're like, oh shit, man! It's like somebody can freaking rock me like that.
Yeah. I remember I told the story. I forgot who we were talking to, and what we call third position of guard. It's basically like a knee shield, and I was doing it in the first MMA class I did, and the first thing that happened was I got punched in the face, and the coach was like, he's like, yeah, that's not good in MMA. He's like, do not do that. He's like, you would get clocked every single time. So
well, that's the thing too, like the spread of how separated did MMA and the sport of jiu-jitsu get too? Like if your goal was MMA, which in the beginning, everybody saw jiu-jitsu from MMA because it was the UFC, but now how that all got spread apart to the point where you lose the realism in sport jiu-jitsu of like punches and all that stuff. So like, even though there's all this new school jiu-jitsu stuff like berimbolo and these new leg entries, if you just train that, like you can adapt that for MMA. I've seen plenty of guys adapt the leg game, Ryan Hall and some other things, but you can't just do sport jiu-jitsu and think you're going to pull that off in MMA. You got to train and adapt, you know, there's no way around it. No way.
It's insane. It's like you gotta know every aspect of it. It's like, look, there was a point where like, well, even it still is. I mean, look at like wrestling. Some people like when you have a striker and a wrestler in the moment, like boom, you got some wrestler just like nonstop taking you down. What's your striking gonna do? Some people were just like, yeah, I got one punch power. I'm just gonna freaking hit him and that's it. Next thing you know, you're getting smothered on the cage. You're exhausted. You're on the ground. You're exhausted, and people didn't have back then. People had no takedown defense. So now it's like people adapt, and now people are coming in with new ways to take somebody down, or be able to, even if it's like adjust their stance. So if they get taken down, they have a chance to stop it. Like little things like that. It's insane. It's just the evolution just continues, and that's what I love about this whole thing. It's like we never stop. Like we never stop evolving. There's so many things that. Even at the level that we all are, it's like there's still so many things we haven't seen, and just like
absolutely.
So it's awesome to see. It's awesome to see like the different styles when you watch the fights, and like even when you go to boxing fights and then you go to MMA fight, you like sometimes I like to watch them both. I'm like wow, it's like, okay, how do I do like without being heavy on my front leg to get that kind of power in an MMA fight. Little details like that are freaking great to see. So it's just constantly evolving. That's what
I think the thing too, when you're exposed to all of that, you see how it gets mixed together. Like I spent a lot of time wrestling and then went into jiu-jitsu and then sort of got very jiu-jitsu-esque, right? And then I was like, wait, I need to start incorporating like old school wrestling back into my jiu-jitsu. When I started getting to a higher level, I brought it back in and was doing more wrestling in my jiu-jitsu, just, to be, because it just flowed better.
Yeah.
I remember we had you guys ever heard of Roman Bravo Young?
Oh yeah.
So he came, he's
Penn State, right?
Yeah, from Penn State. My God, kid's freaking ridiculous, wild. Yeah. So he came to train with us at our headquarters, and look, his wrestling's insane. And my teammate Jimmy goes like, Jimmy Rivera, Roman goes to take him down. Jimmy just locks in a guillotine. He's like, I thought this was wrestling. Jimmy goes like, it's MMA, bitch. But it was funny. Like he didn't crank the choke, but then Roman was like, oh shit, it's like,
yeah, it's there, yeah.
As ridiculous as he is, or. Then we put we put some gloves on him. We kind of work with him. He was like, now he was trying to shoot with strikes. He was like, oh shit. I'm like, yeah, man. So it's like, you have amazing wrestling. Like your wrestling is funky. It's insane. But now if we put gloves on you and we're punching at you, it changes the whole dynamic. And he's like, I see. It's like, same thing. It's like, if we start incorporate jiu-jitsu in here, you can take me down. I don't care. I'm going to slap a choke on you or do something. Right. But it makes you – and then you're like – that's when your mind starts now working. And now it's like you got wrestling, MMA wrestling, and then like wrestling for jiu-jitsu, so you don't get caught. Just like you're learning so much and literally like just like when you're trying to just adapt to all these things. And
it's kind of like your weaknesses, like as those weaknesses climb up – and they get better, they actually support your biggest strength. So what I'm saying is like a guy like RBY or like another guy like Yanni Diakomahalis, who I watch all the time. I mean, one of the best. I mean, I get it's more entertaining watching a guy like Yanni in NCAA wrestling than it is to watch jiu-jitsu sometimes, or most of the time. But I still feel like if a guy like Yanni or RBY had like high-level jiu-jitsu, I believe those guys could go into ADCC and literally just do their wrestling and win just by avoiding takedowns and scrambles and playing the system right. Like as good as their wrestling is, if they had some jiu-jitsu high level, I think they would rip people up in jiu-jitsu. Like just, like you can really wrap your head around that. And it goes to show that whatever your strength is, you got to now keep that, but then all of the weaknesses, the stronger they get, it just supports that main strength.
Right.
Exactly.
You know?
So,
Yeah.
so I had a friend of mine. He's like professional breakdancer, and he used to train with me like when we were kids. But then like he had to the whole pandemic, and then like everything before that, it was just like, so he was just doing professional breakdancing, insane, like the body movements, all that shit. And I'm like, and then he comes back to jiu-jitsu and like he picks it up, but like the way he's moving, I'm like, Jesus, dude, it's like you're breakdancing with jiu-jitsu, and it's wild, it's insane. And I'm like, hey man, show me some of those breakdancing moves. Like, show me the things to do, like, because I mean, my man's spinning on his head, like he's on his hands spinning and doing all this crazy shit. Like you add that to like your jiu-jitsu game.
Yeah, guard pass master there.
That's right, exactly.
The scrambles would be ridiculous. You're trying to scramble and then you like spin on your head. It's pretty but it's like now it's like you implement that into like your game. You're like, all right, like building that kind of core strength, that kind of like just like mobility, be able to do that and just like turn your body like that. It's like, I'm like, Jesus, man. It's like when Lomachenko, they told me like his dad put him in dancing. They took him out of boxing and put him in dancing for like a couple of years. So I guess to improve his footwork.
Timing, yeah.
It's funny how each one supports each other. Each sport does it.
That's what I'm saying. There's so many different pieces to this, and you can't be just closed-minded in one thing. Like look at a guy like Fedor. Like the guy was not this shredded up athletic guy as far as looks in any way, but yet he was one of the like earliest guys to combine styles in the most fluid and best way. He would go in 1 second, he would go from insane boxing strikes to a clinch to a judo takedown right into a leg lock. Like talk about MMA in its purest. I mean, a guy like him, a guy like Sakuraba, like that's what it is. You're intertwining all this shit. Like all these different conglomerate of styles. And if you're stuck in one.
Fluidly, you're combining. Exactly. Not even just like you're doing judo takedown, then, you're literally going from judo takedown to strike, to whatever. It's so fluid is what makes it beautiful.
What's so cool, though, is in my mind, and I got to go back to that, is the whole Tiger Showman thing is, like, I got so much respect for that because everybody just sees them, at least I did, as a traditional karate style. But yet they were open-minded enough to learn and go everywhere and bring it all in, yet they're still keeping the traditional name and keeping that. And I just love that whole concept. They're not stuck in one thing. That's so cool. Yeah, man,
we all have to be trained on a regular basis. That's it. It's like just as martial artists, like we goes back to, we continue to just evolve our styles. Like we're not afraid to be like, yeah, we need to work our wrestling better. Let's add, let's focus on this now. Okay, let's focus on this, right? So it starts at the top and then it trickles down. So we say, okay, we got to be able to do, our kickboxing has to be a little more like if let's say our intermediate level kickboxing, but people are going from a beginner to an intermediate class. Okay, easiest way to make this person feel like this, not too scary, that you're not going to go in there and start freaking fighting and getting blasted in the head. Okay, intermediate class, you guys only drill. There's only drilling. There's no sparring. Right. Pad work, bad work, drilling, basic kind of slipping, ducking, right, parrying. Then when we see that sharp enough, then we go into advanced kickboxing, and that'll be like one-step sparring. So it's like, you throw one technique, I defend. I throw a technique, you defend. You throw this, I defend. And then the people who've done it for a long time, like the people with like black belts, and you guys are sparring. Some people are like, you guys can do MMA. Take your partner down, just work from there. So it's like we're constantly like putting everybody, like we're showing everyone the way. I'm like, look, you're not going to go from here to fighting that guy. It's like, I'm not gonna put your safety at risk like that. It's like we're gonna build you up. I'm like, and look, a lot of people they don't want to fight, and that's good. That's okay. I'm like, Well, like there's only like the 1% that wants to take it a little bit further. And those people, like I said, those people were like, okay, now, you're at this point where like you got to go start training at our headquarters because now you get better work. Like you're used to these guys, or you get the better of these guys all the time. It's like it's time to challenge you. On this day, on these 2 days, go up, train over here, go with these guys, and now they're getting challenged down. They become the, they go from being the big fish in a little pond to little fish in a big pond again. So now it's like it makes them work towards something. It makes them want to improve, and that's why we encourage. Like we have like our regular like Tiger Schulman's competition called the Challenge of Champions, and like all the schools gather. We send students, and they'll be like the beginner divisions, intermediate divisions, advanced divisions, expert divisions, where they're doing like it's kickboxing, and then also for Jiu Jitsu. So you're going with people outside of just the school that you're in. And it gets a chance for like newer people to see it's like, oh, it's not just one Tiger Schulman school, it's whole organization. And like you got kids from all different Tiger Schulman schools gathered to train and then to spar and compete. And then we're like, all right, go to another tournaments, right? Go experience it. Go with people from all around the world who want to just do jiu-jitsu and go pick things up from them. Like, I don't care if you win or lose, go out there and if you win, stay after and watch the people grapple. If you lose, stay, watch all these people grapple, because from every person you're going to get good.
Yeah, absolutely.
I say that all the time. It's like, nowadays, back then, talking like 90s and, things like that, maybe before, it was all, I want to learn how to defend myself. And, and you still get that, but it's less. I feel like, especially in my place, a lot of people come in and their main goal isn't, I have to protect myself. It's, I heard about this jiu-jitsu thing. This is cool. And this is another way to get an exercise in and be around community and like, fitness aspect of the learning process of the moves. And they're learning self-defense by learning the moves, but that's not their main goal.
It's wild. It's wild. Like a lot of people don't realize that's been like an interesting thing. Like as well, in my school, you'd be like, like self-defense, like, it's not that important.
Yeah, that's not their main goal. If it is, then you have self-defense classes. That's great.
Right.
Right. But like if it's like when it's not though, it's interesting to see, because let's say like I've got like these big strong dudes that come in, and then when you see them, it's like they have no idea how to strike, and you're just like, man, like it's like, I guess like by the way that you look, it's probably like maybe gets you by, but then you have somebody that starts a fight with you, and you don't know what to do. Like that's pretty terrifying.
You're in trouble.
Like, a big guy like you, like it's even worse.
You're in trouble.
For me, like I feel it's like they don't know how important self-defense is, because maybe like they haven't experienced it, or they're just or they might have probably felt in a situation. They're probably in a situation that they might have felt uncomfortable, but they're just like like whatever. But you don't realize like the way shit is now, people get jumped all the time. I had a kid tell me the other day, like a bunch of seniors from a certain high school are jumping middle school kids, like beating the shit out of them. Like what?
Why? Like why? Yeah.
Well,
why?
Like they're bullying into easy pickings or something. Jeez.
Yeah. And it's just like I'm like really? And they're like, yeah, it's like they're threatening to just jump all like the middle school seniors. So it's like high school seniors, middle school. It's like, what's going on? Or just people like just getting randomly just attacked for no reason. And
crazy.
People don't realize how much like, look, that's one of the life skills everyone has to learn, right? How to fight. Because if not, it's like, you get in a situation like I'd rather have a fight. I'd rather have a chance than completely get obliterated by somebody. Or like, I know like a lot, the women in our school, like sometimes they hesitate with jiu-jitsu because it's like, it's like I'm uncomfortable, and I'm like, that's okay. But if you're in a situation that you're uncomfortable with, guess what? You rather have a chance of keeping yourself safe than having no chance at all.
Yep.
Yeah. Even we had a parent who, her son is moving up into jiu-jitsu, but the daughter's like, oh, I don't want to do jiu-jitsu. I'm not comfortable. I'm like,
that's why you
at
should.
Your age, you should be doing jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
I'm like you need to know. Look, it's like, God forbid you go to college and some guy tries to take advantage of you. It's like,
be able to protect yourself.
You got to be able to defend yourself. And sometimes it's shocking because like some parents, sometimes it's like maybe they don't see that ever happening to their kids, but also their kids sometimes will never tell them. But it's like how important that is for everybody. Look, I don't care who you are. It's like you got to know how to fight.
Yeah.
Even if it's not professionally in a cage, it's like you just need to have that peace of mind. Shit's crazy enough.
And it's repetition too, man. It's not just like going and doing like some short self-defense class. It's like training for it and being in the condition for it and being ready for it and being able to do it and execute it instantly, and that doesn't happen by learning a technique once,
Yeah. It's like us teaching, there's everyone when they first start, like they struggle with push-ups, and they're like, I get some kids doing some weird push-ups and stuff like that. And, like, oh, I don't like doing push-ups. I don't like this. They complain. And then you're like, okay, what if I'm on top of you and you're too weak to push me off of you? Like, what are you going to do, man? It's like, it's like a lot of people just don't understand the concept. And it's a little alarming because I'm like, you see the way the world is right now. Everyone's so on guard. Everyone gets insulted for any reason. Like not like the old days, like people had like some thick skin, or you just settled there with a straight up fist fight. You're like, all right, meet me right here. We're gonna settle it out. It's like, like with social media and everything the way it is, like people are just getting insulted overall for no reason, and it's like. You don't realize how training just not just physically, just like also like in your mind. It's like like people will be like, it's like, do you get into a lot of fights? I'm like, I don't have to. Like, like I know, like one, like I'm getting paid to fight in the UFC. Like, why am I gonna
get into fights?
Some guy up in the street or like wasted? And two, it's like I know what I'm capable of. So like. Why do I need to go around looking for fights? I don't need any of that. Yeah,
and I think the secret, like all fighters know, is it keeps you so balanced. Like training keeps you so mentally and physically balanced. Like you just, it's, I don't know why everyone doesn't train. Like I'm just being honest.
It's funny because a lot of people, I remember like back then, like when I first started training, people always saw like fighters were like these meatheads, like juiced up meatheads. You're like, oh. And easy like the dorkiest kids ever.
Yeah,
and then next they're just like freaking like strangling you, tossing you around. You're like,
I know.
You're like, God damn, dude. Yeah. But it's like, I feel like fighters are some like they're to me like the most humble people, like because we all know what we're capable of, and we don't need to go around showing it off to anybody. We're just like. Everyone's just so cool and casual, just like mad chill, mad laid back.
Yeah.
Until shit has to go down, then then that's business.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I also think they also know like that nerdy kid in the corner, if he's like super really trained, he may kick the shit out of me. You know what I mean? Like in a jiu-jitsu match or whatever, because they've experienced it, right? And how many times, like I'm a small guy and people always like they train with me and they're like, I can't believe how fast you are, how strong you are. Or I'm like, dude, I train all the time. Of course I'm gonna, and it's like they're like, it's very, deceiving. I'm like, what's deceiving? You're on a mat. Everyone's gonna be a killer,
Well, it's like when I'm walking out, like I'm just treating casual clothing, is like you would never think that I'm a fighter. You would never like even unless you look at my ears, that's a whole different story. But like you see me as like, this casual dude, that's it. Like, oh shit, this guy's fighting the UFC. Like,
yeah. What do you got? What do you got coming up? You got anything coming up?
April 9th,
coming up, right?
Yeah. April 9th.
Awesome.
I'm waiting to see. I mean, apparently they said it was going to be in Brooklyn.
Okay.
But I don't know how these whole mandate things are going. And
yeah, that'd be surprising. New York's got a lot of restrictions,
Yeah. So they said like they might move it to Jacksonville, Florida. But Hey man, I got to fight, so I'm just happy about that.
Yeah.
You got to bounce back from that last fight. I got to get that one back though in the future. But
That's
it's
awesome,
against, Daniel Santos, and perfect amount of time, April 9th. Get in there, get this work, and
April
just freaking get back on track.
Yeah.
Awesome.
You're fighting Santos, right? Santos?
Yeah, Daniel Willie Cat Santos.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think he's making his UFC debut.
Okay.
So that's gonna be a big one. Man.
Nice, man. That's awesome. Whatever. What's all your what's your social? Where can our followers, follow you and keep in contact and all that?
Well, you guys can all follow me at Julio Arce 89 on Instagram. That's mostly where I'm at. Sometimes, mostly. On Twitter, you can go at JRCTMMA, and that's pretty much it. And then just anybody who supports my journey, or just like any fighter's journey in general, is like I always just appreciate them, because it's a tough one for a lot of fighters. But guess what? It's always a great one at the end of it, because you just keep getting better. We keep rising. We all just keep getting closer to the top.
Awesome, man.
Pleasure meeting you, man.
Yeah, we look forward to watching that, and appreciate you coming on. And the history of you coming up is awesome. I love hearing all those stories, especially local. Now guys in New York. We're on Eastern Long Island, but anytime you're out east, man, you should contact us.
Definitely, let me know. Right, but dude, thank you guys for having me. This was great. This is amazing. So hopefully we do it again soon.
Let's touch base. Let's get that fight in, and let's come back on.
You got it. Guys,
awesome, man.
Have a great day. Enjoy. Thank you.
Take care.
Take care.